Good evening. My name is Howard Schulder, and I want to thank you for joining us this evening on behalf of the Hebrew Free Loan Society. Tonight's featured speaker is David Rosen, President and CEO of Hebrew Free Loan Society, who will be in conversation with Edward Karan, longtime Society board member. Being in the lending business for many years, I was aware of the Hebrew Free Loan Society and contributed to it frequently. Now I am fulfilling a long-time dream of mine. Tonight, I am proud to share with you that I am launching the Schulder Free Loan Fund at Hebrew Free Loan Society in partnership with the Leon Mayer Fund and the Mark Raymer Chesed Fund, local charities in the 5 towns. I created the fund in memory of my parents, Hilda and Jack Schulder, to work alongside the Raymer Chesed Center, which was created in memory of our dear late friend, Mark Raymer, Zichrono Livracha. Mark inspired so many of us with his generosity to the community, and his family is continuing his charitable efforts. The Schulder Fund is intended to assist lower income individuals living in Far Rockaway and the 5 towns and neighboring Long Island communities as part of various assistance programs of the Raymer Chesed Fund is offering. The Schulder Fund will ensure that our neighbors in need have access to interest-free loans. I am so proud to partner with the highly regarded Hebrew Free Loan Society, founded way back in 1892, who currently has $800,000 on loan to over 100 of our Long Island neighbors as part of millions loaned out in the greater New York area. The Hebrew Free Loan Society loans are helping neighbors launch small businesses, access higher education to improve their job opportunities, assist those who have hit a financial hiccup due to poor health, job loss, or other unexpected events, stabilize their finances, and pay expensive healthcare bills. All this with no interest loans. We are deeply grateful to all of you for making the work of the Hebrew Free Loan Society possible. Now, let's watch a short video of our borrowers' stories. I wish you all a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year.
When I became aware that COVID was an increasing problem, and I found out that I had endometrial cancer, I was frantic about money.
And they sat us down and told us that they would have to postpone production.
We started hearing from our partners, things are shutting down, and there's really nothing we can do about it.
It was truly a crisis, and we didn't know if the business could survive.
My brother Ruben, after COVID, he was intubated in bad shape, so painful when we lost my brother.
For lower income working people in New York City, it has felt like Superstorm Sandy rolled in every week for 60 weeks. We shifted almost entirely into safety net mode. We wanted to make sure that people had easy access to our interest-free loans.
I applied for the coronavirus loan program. It was a simple, straightforward process.
2 days, I got all the answers.
The process of applying for a small business loan program was pretty seamless. There was a lot of hands-on support.
It added a level of security that I didn't have before.
And then I saw that it was a no interest loan. I said, oh no, this can't be true.
We've provided over $21 million in relief to lower income New Yorkers.
So our patients not only have a lot of struggles income-wise, but really have struggles medical-wise too. They had to really choose to either stay home or go to their jobs and then perhaps expose their family. Speaking to people who understand where you're coming from and who really can show a little bit of sympathy really is a gift.
Hebrew Free Loan Society has been around in past pandemics, a couple of world wars through depression. It's in our DNA to know how to help people in a crisis.
And I'm so thankful to donors like you who make these loans possible. Artists like me need assistance.
It's nice to know that there is an organization that really values people's needs, and I hope that you'll consider donating. The Hebrew Free Loan Society needs donors like you.
Thank you. My name is Eddie Karan. I am pleased to be joined by David Rosen, who is the president and CEO of Hebrew Free Loan. We're going to get into a thoughtful conversation in a moment. Just a little bit about myself. I've been involved with Hebrew Free Loan Society now for about 20 years. And I joined really at an important time in my life when I was just getting in the world of finance. As Howard has introduced, both finance and legacy are important to many of us. I'm pleased to be joined by many friends and community members and family members in this conversation. And it's a particularly auspicious day for our family and for many in the community. Today is the 24th day of the month of Elul, which is the 88th yahrzeit of the death of the Chafetz Chaim, who passed away in 1933 on this date. Many people are familiar with the works of the Chafetz Chaim. He's authored books on proper speech, as well as books on daily practical halachic living, the Mishnah Brura. 4 years before the Hebrew Free Loan Society was founded in 1892, when the Chafetz Chaim was about 55 years old, he wrote a book called Ahavat Chesed, which personally has had an impact on my life. When I read that book, I was expecting to read about ways that we normally associate with chesed, hosting people for haknasat orchim in our homes, tending to those that need proper burial, or other ways that we visit the sick or help those in need. I was surprised that the Chafetz Chaim spent the majority of the world of that book addressing financial concerns and the important mitzvah of the interest-free loan in his book. And it had an impact on me. And at that time, I actually called up the organization, spoke to Shana Novick, the executive director at the time, and said, can I be a part of this? And it's been a tremendous journey since that time. I'm now an officer of the organization and a member of the board, chairing the development committee, and very pleased to be joined by Rabbi David Rosen in this important conversation to talk about how this type of loan impacts those in our community. And hopefully you will appreciate, and hopefully you will have questions, and you are free to do so in the Q&A box. This is kind of informal. We called it a parlor meeting. We're in our homes, and we would love for you to be able to participate in this conversation. If something strikes a chord and you want to pass, please do so. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it off. David, it's a pleasure to see you in this format and to get together once again. And I'm going to kick it off with the first question. We just saw a video highlighting the impact of COVID in our community, and it still continues to disrupt life in New York as well as around the world. It's been a financial disaster as well, forcing millions of people to fall back on community supports. Now, why has the pandemic impacted lower income New Yorkers so much more than others? And how has the Hebrew Free Loan Society adapted to meet the needs and challenges of the present moment? And so why are loans such an integral tool?
Thanks, Eddie. I really appreciate those questions. It's a lot to unpack there. I want to welcome everybody to this conversation tonight. And I hope, as Eddie mentioned, that you will put your questions into the Q&A box or the chat box and help us move the conversation along. So one question that you asked was, why has COVID been so terrible for lower income New Yorkers? And I think the main answer to that is because people rely on work for income. And this pandemic has caused an economic shutdown that wiped out around 600,000 jobs from the New York City area. That is a very, very large number of jobs. And people have not gotten back to work yet, or they haven't gotten back to work yet fully. It's not even clear that a lot of those jobs are going to exist even once the economy returns to something more like normal. The Hebrew Free Loan Society is not really a poverty relief organization. If you are poor and you don't have enough money to meet your expenses at the end of the month, what you need is tzedakah. You need a cash transfer. You need government benefits. You need something that you don't have to pay back. A loan is not really a good tool for you. Our core audience is lower income working people, people who are have enough income to meet their expenses normally, but sometimes they hit a bump. And sometimes that bump is larger than the savings that they have accumulated, and they need to figure out some way to address a medical expense or a broken down car or something. And we are there to provide them with a loan that doesn't wind up worsening their financial situation. It helps them. They are able to borrow the money and pay back only the money that they borrowed, no fees, no interest. And that is pretty much unheard of in terms of credit access for lower income people. Another thing that we do for people routinely is we help them improve their financial situation. We'll help them access financial opportunity by making them a loan to start a small business or to go to college or to get some job training that will enable them to increase the amount that they're earning. That is our core function. And during COVID, our core function got really challenged. First of all, if you're lending to working people and hundreds of thousands of people are out of work, it's really hard to offer a loan to somebody who doesn't know where their next paycheck is coming from. And this past year, we did a lot of things, including $1 million more in lending than we did the previous year. But I got to tell you, the year before that, we did $4 million of additional lending. And so we grew, but the pace of our growth slowed down because so many people were out of work. And that is the core issue, I think, for lower income people. Will they get back to work? Will they get back to work at jobs that pay them enough to meet their expenses? And when will all of this happen? And what are the financial bridges available to them once government benefit programs start to wind down? That's really where we have focused in the last year is trying to make sure that people have a financial bridge so that when they get back to work, they will not have a crushing amount of debt with an interest clock that's running. And that's I think the answer to why lower income people have been so hard hit by the coronavirus. I will just say one quick thing about how we adapted to this situation. We make loans, that is, we're like a one-trick pony. We're very focused on making interest-free loans, and it's extremely helpful to people. But as I mentioned, a lot of people did not have the wherewithal to pay back loans, or they had government benefits that were covering their expenses, and so they didn't actually need our loans. There were still a tremendous number of people who were struggling. And so one thing that we did very quickly was for all the people who already had HFLS loans, we told them that they did not have to make repayments on those loans for 4 months during the pandemic. It's an average of $250 that comes out of people's bank accounts through electronic withdrawal. And we just said, hold on to that $250 a month. We know you're going to need it. And we did that for 4 months running. So we helped people marshal around $1,000 of cash to help them get through the toughest time of the pandemic. We also reached out to people and said, if you are having trouble making your HFLS payment, come talk to us and we can reduce your payment. So if you're paying $250 a month and it would be helpful to you to bring it down to $150, we'll be happy to do that. We'll just extend the term of your loan, and it'll take you a little bit longer to pay back, but you'll have more breathing room. We communicated like crazy with our borrowers. And as a result, I want to say something that's going to probably surprise most people, which is our repayment rate during the pandemic and post-pandemic has been as good as our repayment rate was before the pandemic. And it was really good before the pandemic. We have a 99.9% repayment rate. People are incredible about paying us back, in part because of the system that we use to secure our loans, which is that people who borrow from us have to come with a guarantor. And so they're accountable to somebody in their life who would have to pay off the loan if they don't pay it. But also, people want to repay what they owe if they possibly can. And they know that we're a charitable organization, and they know that when they repay us, the loan is going back out to somebody else who needs it. And so there's a lot of motivation to repay us. But even so, I find it to be both surprising and also kind of inspiring that our repayment rate has been so great. And it's partly due to our amazing borrowers, and it's partly due to our efforts to be in communication with them about what would help them ensure that they can handle the debt that they've taken on, along with every other financial challenge that they're facing.
David, you highlighted a bunch that I want to follow up on, and I know that there's questions on there about how we serve pockets of need and specifically how COVID has impacted our community. Before I cover those and more, but I actually just want to go a little bit more into our own community. Long Island, we're part of the catchment area for Hebrew Free Loan Society. There is a specific catchment area, so I'd like you to just kind of highlight what that is, and also just a little bit more about Long Island. How many borrowers have we assisted? And do you think others in our community can benefit? I mean, Howard mentioned there's a fund and there's community organizations, so they clearly want to partner with us. So can you just speak a little bit about more kind of things that you're seeing locally?
Yes, let me start with the 50,000 foot view, which is that the Hebrew Free Loan Society serves New York City, Long Island, and Westchester County. We are one of about 40 Hebrew Free Loans across the United States and Canada. All of the Hebrew Free Loans serve a particular region around a city, and we have a network where we talk to each other and help each other out, but we're not connected. It's not like there's one giant Hebrew Free Loan and we're all branches of that Hebrew Free Loan. So some of the Hebrew Free Loans like us have been around for 100 years plus, and some of them are brand new. The one in Las Vegas just got started last year. So in New York City, the Hebrew Free Loan is lending most heavily in Brooklyn and Queens. So of the 5 boroughs of New York City, Brooklyn and Queens are definitely the 2 most populous boroughs. So it makes sense that we lend the most. They're also the boroughs that have the highest concentration of Jewish residents. And we're also trying to do more in Westchester and on Long Island. I'm going to talk about Long Island since that's where you're sitting and that's where Howard's sitting, and that's maybe where some other folks are sitting too. We have had some really nice partnerships spring up lately. One I want to mention is with the Community Chest of South Shore, which is a local organization that provides all kinds of support. They came to us. They wanted to do a lending program to support small business owners in the area. And we said, we'd love to do that with you. And in fact, for you, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. And so we were on the receiving end of $100,000 in capital from the Community Chest of South Shore, which we're going to try to convert into $1 million of small business lending over the course of the next year or so. We also are very happy to work with many of the UJA Federation of New York network agencies, the JCCs. We also are in contact with a lot of the synagogues in the area. And I want to in particular mention that we've had some help from UJA board member Rosemary Clipper, and also from UJA staff person, Seppi Jabahari, who they both have helped us connect more deeply than we had previously to places like the Goral JCC, and and there are networks that are helping vulnerable people that we don't know about, but because they work locally on Long Island, they've helped us connect to. The work that's been done by Bernie Fuchs, who is our special representative on Long Island, to be an ambassador for us. Bernie is constantly telling people about us and sending borrowers our way. We really appreciate that. And this newest partnership with the Mark Bramer Chesed Center and the Leon Mayer Fund, which will enable us through the Schulder Fund to make general needs loans to more people on Long Island. That's a step in the right direction too. All of that is wonderful, but it's not nearly enough. There are hundreds of thousands of households on Long Island that could be our borrowers if they knew about us. And we are a bit of a hidden gem. And so one of the things that I'd really like to encourage people on this call to do is just let people know that we exist. Please, if you're connected to networks or to institutions where you think people could benefit from an interest-free loan, they probably don't know about the Hebrew Free Loan Society. And we travel fastest through word of mouth. We do some advertising, people find out about us, but primarily it's through partnerships with local organizations serving the community and through borrowers who tell their friends that they had a really good experience borrowing from the Hebrew Free Loan Society. Howard mentioned that we have right now about $750,000 in outstanding loans to around 100 borrowers on Long Island. That is a terrific start, but I mean, it could be 10 times, 20 times that if we are able to connect with people. One thing that we would need in order to be able to serve 10 or 20 times the number of people on Long Island are some resources to be able to do that, but we could talk about later how we raise resources for lending and for operating our loans.
So you did answer some questions that were coming in, David. There was questions around how do people find out about us? And this is pretty much word of mouth and local communities driving that. There were some questions around just a little bit more about the loan process itself, sure. The types of loans. And I also, in addressing that, I'd also you'd like to comment on, we have made and serviced over $20 million in loans. And actually since March, it's been like, over the last, I guess, 15 or 16 months, maybe it's closer to 30 million. So I'd like you to cover both a little bit of the macro and the micro in that question, both the macro in terms of just how are we able to do that? And kind of how do we move capital and how are we funded on one side? And then on the other side, from the borrower perspective, how do they actually do this? If someone says, I want a loan, what does that process look like? Sure.
So let me say a little bit about our basic loans. I like to divide our loans into two groups. We've got our net loans and our ladder loans. The net loans are the safety net loans where if you hit a bump and you don't have enough cash to cover that, you can come to the Hebrew Free Loan Society and borrow in a way that is financially safe and secure for you. And what does that mean? It means that you can get a general needs loan for any purpose up to $7,500 with one guarantor. You have to find somebody in your life who will agree to commit to paying off the loan if you don't pay off the loan. I have to say that guarantors are the secret sauce of the Hebrew Free Loan Society. I feel like it is a community building experience when people stand up for each other in this way, and the guarantor makes the loan possible, but the borrower pays back the guarantor by paying us back. And so the guarantor can just feel great about having made the whole thing possible. We very rarely collect from guarantors. We almost always get paid back by borrowers. And people fill out a simple online application. There's a short interview where the main purpose of the interview is to make sure that people understand what they're getting into and what they're getting their guarantor into. We will do a quick credit check on the guarantor, and if everything is in order, we can issue a loan, and the process can take as little as a week. One of the mixed blessings of the pandemic has been our working out of the office and doing everything now online and remotely. We were headed that way. We were moving towards making things easier, getting rid of paper applications. And now we just rushed into that and have accomplished that at a much faster speed. So now we're much more efficient than we used to be. It takes much less time for us to process a typical loan.
Default
people-
rate, David, the default rate is less than 1%. That you were mentioning that we don't go to guarantors. So that's an envy of even for-profit lenders. Talk a little bit about why the default rate is so low, and therefore when people are contributing to capital, that capital seems to be recycled for many years.
Yeah, I don't know any other nonprofit organization that is like the Hebrew Free Loan Society in terms of the multiplier effect of a contribution. And we are able to use our loan funds year after year after year. Most nonprofits, when they put out, $20 million, it's gone. They've spent it and they need to raise another $20 million. For us, that's $20 million that's out in the community and that's coming back to us within the space of a few years, and we're going to put it right back out again. Now, we could make $20 million a year of loans, of interest-free loans, and that would be tremendous, except there's a lot more demand than $20 million. And so if we want to reach more people and help more borrowers, we have to raise more capital. And we have been able to do that in two ways, primarily. One is through gifts. People for 130 years have been making contributions to the Hebrew Free Loan Society, providing capital that we use to make our loans. And we will this year probably make somewhere between $23 and $24 million worth of loans. I project that we'll be making an additional $4 million in lending every year for the next few years. That'll get us up to $40 to $50 million within the next 5 years or so. So obviously, in order to grow from lending 25 million to 50 million, you need 25 million more in capital. Some of that will come through gifts. Some of it will come from loans. People lend to us at 0% so that we can increase our reach. And so if people are looking for a good way to support the work that we do, and they are able to lend to us for a few years loan capital, we would be happy to put that to work in the community. And we have, over the past couple of years, raised several $1 million in 0% interest loans to the Hebrew Free Loan Society, including if people have an account at the Jewish Communal Fund, which is a donor advised fund. They have a program that allows people to take some of the money that's in their donor advised fund and lend it to the Hebrew Free Loan Society. It's called the Social Impact Loan Program. And if you're a JCF account holder, you should check that out.
So just pivoting. So I think people understand capital, right? They understand, okay, I lend money, and I know that it goes to a borrower and then it gets repaid. Can you talk about kind of then a little bit more about kind of the costs to run this organization, the other way that we need money that's not towards capital, but it's towards operating, how people size that up? Are we running this expensively, cheaply? What type of metrics do you use to showcase kind of how we run our organization and what it takes to actually do this? You need underwriters, you need people in the community liaisons,
That's right.
you need a marketing budget. Talk us through a little bit about that.
So I'll just start by saying that our operating budget is around $3 million a year. That is provided entirely by contributions from the community, a little bit of fee for service, and a little bit of investment returns. We are an enduring asset that is supported by the New York City community for New Yorkers. And so every year, to make sure that people have access to these loans, people pay the cost of operating our lending. And the main costs are for loan officers and other staff that make it possible for us to reach people and process their loans and service their loans. It's about 12% of our lending portfolio. The size of our budget is about 12% of our lending portfolio. So $3 million, we got a portfolio of around $23 to $24 million. That is extremely cost effective if you compare it to other microfinance organizations. If you compared us to a bank, we probably would not be as cost effective, But that's because banks are making, very large loans. The transaction costs for a $7,500 loan, which is our typical loan, are almost the same as to make a $7.5 million loan. And so, yes, I suppose if we shifted up to, making only six-figure loans, we could drop down the cost, but that's not who we are. Who we are is a lender to people who need $5,000 or $7,500 at a time, or if they're, going to start a small business, maybe it's $25,000 or $30,000. We've got this year, we're going to make over 2,000 new loans. We probably have another 2,200 loans in our portfolio. So we're servicing around 4,000 loans a year. It takes a lot of people to make that happen, but it does not actually cost that much money if you compare us to other lenders who are doing the same kind of lending that we are.
I know that Citi, my employer, has followed this space and invested money in actually looking at microfinance organizations through the Aspen Institute. And our metrics do show up because they've been tracking us for a number of years in that study. And our metrics show up favorably. There is a question from the audience, which ties into actually something that the Chafetz Chaim did write about in highlighting that an interest-free loan is actually in a higher level than general giving in terms of ways that people can express themselves through charity. And he highlights that it's because a loan is less embarrassing for someone in need than actually just a handout. It creates dignity through the process. You've seen, personal stories, share us something about that, what that really means for our borrowers. That are they embarrassed? Are they not embarrassed to come to us? How do they feel? What are you seeing in the loan process? Because I know that that's deeply impactful to people.
Yeah, well, one thing about a loan is that it gives somebody an opportunity to feel like they are in partnership with the lender, right? They're going to do their part, we're going to do our part, and we're going to get through this process. So I think it feels somewhat more dignified for people to be able to say, I need this money now, but I'm going to pay it back to you, and you're going to be able to lend it out to somebody else. So already the process of a loan can be more dignified than the process of just a cash transfer. I would also say that we try extremely hard at HFLS to treat everybody with the utmost respect when they're going through the process. There is absolutely no judgment about why people need a loan. We assume that if you are a lower income New Yorker, you probably have 10 reasons why you need a loan, and we're here to help you. There's no screen for the purpose of the loan. Like, we don't try to check and make sure that the loan is a worthy use. We treat people like adults. They have challenges, financial challenges. We're here to help them in the most effective way that we can. And so I think one of the things that we do to ensure dignity is not to make this an extremely invasive process where people have to sort of show us their budgets and this sort of thing. That's not our style. That's not how we do our lending. Another thing that I would say is the main source that most lower income people have for emergencies related to money is their friends and family. It can be stressful and embarrassing to go to your friends and family to ask for a loan. And so knowing that there's a place in the community where there is money available for them, where they don't have to go back to friends and family, but they can relate to us and do that in a professional, private manner, I think that's also a way that we help to ensure people's dignity in the process.
You've spoken about opportunities in the current environment. You've spoken about challenges. You run a pretty large non-for-profit organization. I'm sure there are, a lot of people that are leading non-for-profits that are just, having their own challenges. What keeps you, most up at night when you think about, Hebrew Free Loan Society? What is the thing that, gnaws at you in terms of what are you worried about most?
Well, I have to say this has obviously been an incredibly intense period for everybody everywhere. Nonprofits in particular have been challenged to meet more demand with fewer resources. And I think everyone is feeling somewhat burnt out. That definitely includes the staff of nonprofit organizations. At Hebrew Free Loan Society, I think that one of the things that keeps us all going is knowing how directly our loans are helping people through this process. We have the gift of dealing every single day with people who we are helping them get out of a jam, helping them move their lives forward. And it is incredibly gratifying. I don't, as the executive director, the CEO, I don't really deal every single day with our borrowers. And I know that our loan officers are the ones who have the most interaction. And it's not always easy. People are stressed out. They're sometimes really worried about what's going to happen if they can't get access to the financing that they need. But it is enormously gratifying to be able to do this work. And so what keeps me up, honestly, is why are we not reaching more people? I honestly think that we cover maybe less than 5% of what the need is in our 9-county area. And so that, sorry, 8-county area, that is not okay. What really keeps me up is how can we reach more people at a pace that we can stand, so that we can grow and our impact can be felt. This is also, I think, one moment in a very long history of an organization. Now, this organization has been around for 130 years. That is half of the time that the United States of America has been in existence. And like you, I've been involved in Hebrew Free Loan Society nearly as long as you have, but I feel enormously privileged to be able to do a share of the work to build up this resource that New Yorkers have built for other New Yorkers, their neighbors, and to pass it along in a way that's going to be bigger, better, more powerful, more impactful. So that's what I really invite everyone who's on this call to join us in doing, is doing your share at this moment for something that will honestly live on beyond all of us and will be helping people generations down the road.
So we have time for just a couple more programs and questions, and they're going to wrap it up. There was a question around a little bit more just about the programs. I know that Howard gave a brief, broad stroke of the range of things. Maybe you can just, in another minute or two, just highlight some of the programs that so
Sure.
people are aware, and maybe an area that you think is going to be growing.
Yes. So we've already mentioned general needs loans for any purpose. We've mentioned small business loans. We also have housing loans that are specifically designed for something that's unique to New York. It's the Llama housing program. This is below market rate affordable housing. There's a waiting list. It can be 5 years long. If you get to the top of the waiting list, you have an opportunity to actually buy a unit, but you need to gather together capital pretty quickly in order to do it. So we have a program that allows people to secure affordable housing, which can be just the key to stabilizing their financial situation. We have loans for people who have a family member who is struggling with addiction, and there can be a lot of financial costs that are connected with that, rehab and other kinds of things. And so we have a loan program that's dedicated to that. We also have a very large, wonderful program for parents with kids who have special education needs. In New York City, the Department of Education is committed to make sure that every child has an equal and appropriate education. If the public schools can't meet your kids' needs, they will pay for your child to attend a private school that can meet their needs. Unfortunately, they often pay on a reimbursement basis. And so if you're a lower income parent, there's no way that you can front the private school tuition that's required. And so 20 years ago, Hebrew Free Loan Society decided to provide a financial bridge for parents so that anyone who is in this program and needs a bridge loan, we'll provide that loan. And we collaborate with many schools across the area, including schools on Long Island like Kulano Academy and Kahal. So we're very proud of the special education bridge loan program that we have. One other program I'll mention is security bridge loans. I wish we didn't have to have this program, but there are grants available from the Department of Homeland Security for institutions that are trying to improve their security infrastructure, put in steel enforced doors or a video camera system just to make the place safer. Again, the grants are awarded, but you can't get the money until you spend the money on the project and then you submit the receipts. And a lot of smaller institutions don't have the cash flow available to do those projects. So they get the award, but they can't actually do the project. We decided that that was unacceptable. And we were able to partner with the UJ Federation and the Singer Foundation to make sure that there is bridge money available for institutions that want to complete these projects. So sorry, I got one more very quick program that I want to mention, because during this period, a lot of people have been paying off high interest debt, which is great. High interest debt is a drain on a lower income household, and we have 0% interest debt. And so what we're working on right now, and hopefully it'll be available in January, is a program to help people manage their high interest debt by converting it into 0% interest debt from the Hebrew Free Loan Society, and working with a financial counselor or a coach to ensure that they have the tools to continue to keep themselves in a positive financial situation. We're working with the New York Legal Assistance Group, NILAG. We're working with Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners, and we're working with the OU to try to make sure that people can get out of a situation where they're just paying interest and they're never really making progress on their debt. So those are some of the lending programs that we have available. It's all 0% interest. It's all never any fees.
David, and I really just want to thank you. I think we're coming up on time. This is really meant to be a conversation to start more conversations. We can talk about this, and I could talk about this personally with you for a lot longer. I just want to thank your passion and your leadership and your insights that you bring to this. It makes it even more exciting for me to really just be a partner with you and collaborating. And I know other people that are involved in the organization feel similarly. I want to thank everybody that's joined. For those of you that have supported this effort already, I know, Howard Schulder and the Ramers have been important, close friends in the community and neighbors, and there are many others that that David had highlighted. I want to thank the board and the Next Gen for just kind of the stewardship that you provide. And I guess I'll leave it with the audience to stay engaged. If you would be open to a call from me or anyone on our staff to discuss how you can collaborate more, ensuring that Long Islanders that have need are aware of us. We're going to follow up. We're going to ask through email if you are interested in supporting us. We'd be delighted to speak with you. And David highlighted, one of his main things that really keeps him up is knowing that the need is much bigger than we're servicing. And all of you can play a role in highlighting and noticing pockets of need. And finding those and allowing them to come to us so we can further help. So I just wanted to wish everyone a wonderful evening and a Chag Sameach and a Shana Tova. And we wish you all a year of a blessing and thank you again.
Thank you so much, Eddie. Thanks, everyone.